It's a house thing. 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 It's a house thing.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Property. I'm Heather Hilder-Darling. The programme is sponsored by Callaway's Estate and Letting Agent. Could you be persuaded to part with your cash for a little bit of 6x6 timber property on Hove's Prom? Why Beach Hut?
Earlier in July this year, I spoke to Veronica Henry, author of several books, including Beach Huts. To start the show, let's revisit my chat with Veronica.
Well, I always like to set my books somewhere where I feel my reader would like to be. And I was sitting there one summer, kind of doing some research for my next book, thinking about what I might like to write about. And I realised that the setting was fascinating. I was basically eavesdropping on everybody in all the surrounding beach huts. And I just had one of those light bulb moments. And I emailed my publisher and said, what about a kind of Coronation Street meets the Bowden catalogue novel set in a row of beach huts in North Devon? And she just went, right, do it now.
So how difficult is it to write about other people's emotional ties with a beach hut?
Well, I think there's all sorts of things tied up in, isn't it? It's memories and nostalgia and escapism. And I think we're very selective in our memories. So we do look back and just remember all the wonderful times on holiday. And quite often, you know, on a certainly an English holiday like that, it is the grandparents' annual chance to connect with their grandchildren. And then there's the sort of holiday romances and the chance for, you know, families to come together. So I think there's a massive emotional investment in something. I mean, it's always difficult selling a house, I think. You know, selling your home is a huge wrench often. But I think with a beach hut, because it's so intense, you know, you have those few weeks of sun-drenched happiness. So to sell it, it's just, it's sort of like another time. And I think those things are still very much with us now. They haven't been stamped out. People still love all of that. Yeah, I think every region, every place, sort of seaside town that's lucky enough to have beach huts has their own distinctive style. Again, as we've mentioned, some of them are really simple and just like cupboards almost. And then you get then there's the ones that are on stilts to take advantage of the view. And I guess geography often dictates how they look. And then, you know, I imagine it's become quite competitive actually now. That's quite interesting, isn't it? It's like, how have you done your beach hut out? Like keeping up with the Joneses as to what colour you've got and what facilities you've got. And whereas I just love the old, you know, weather-beaten, ramshackle, felt falling off the roof. That's my kind of beach hut, you know, real.
And of course you can individualise your beach hut. So when the doors are all shut, they all look identical.
Yeah.
And when I go for the very first time with a key and an owner says, can you go and look at my beach hut? And I go down there with the key in the lock, open it up, and I never quite know what I'm going to see.
Oh.
And it's a bit like Christmas every time, actually.
Do you remember those old kitchen units that had a drop down? Formica, that's it.
Formica, that's right. Yeah, generally with like
yeah, and especially now when, you know, we're all stuck here, basically. So I think it's opening up to a whole new, I don't know if the audience is quite the right word, a whole new section of visitors who maybe didn't discover the British seaside beforehand, or might have done a weekend, but now want to spend the whole week. So yeah, I think it's, and of course, yeah, it's all the rage, isn't it? And the prices are going through the roof and madness.
You know, as I say, some people have had theirs 20, 30, 40 years, and very often people will say to, well, my mum had it before me, and you think, my goodness me. And I know, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. Little quirks.
But I don't know how you're imagining the Hove beach huts, but there's no windows in them either, so you literally do need the doors open if you want some fresh air. But the benefits of owning a beach hut, you've already alluded to it, you know, the mental well-being, the escapism, the memory making. Do you think at our different life stages we attach more to one than another? You know, our mental well-being, if we're an adult,
Yes.
do we attach that more to being out in the fresh air and maybe walking along the prom or doing a little jog or talking to the neighbours if they're there, or the memory making maybe with the children if we're younger?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have different phases in our, you know, sort of the teenagers and upwards, probably, you know, between 18 and 30 probably wouldn't be that interested because they want adventure and excitement and
I'm going to stop you there. I'm so sorry because it's funny. I'm getting a lot of that age group.
Oh,
and do you know why? Because they want to socialise with their friends. They've got younger children, but also paddle boarding and canoeing and cold water swimming is really quite in vogue at the moment. So, of course, they want to store their paddle boards. They want to use the beach huts as a changing hut, which incredibly is what they used to be used for, wasn't it? For changing.
Yes, that's how they were.
So it's done full circle.
Modesty. That's interesting. Yeah, so they're not all whizzing off to Ibiza. They're all hanging out in Hove
and obviously the social gathering. I think we've all, during lockdown in particular, we've underestimated how much our family and friends mean to us. Would you agree?
Oh, totally. I mean, everybody's desperate, and I think when you're conglomerating by the beach, there's so many. You know, there's something for everybody, isn't there? So if you've got a bunch of friends, then you've got your paddleboarders, you might have your surfers, you've got the one that just wants to nip off and get the Barbie stuff and get all that organised, and then you've got somebody who just wants to sit in a deck chair and read. So there's so much potential for all personalities and all activities to be catered for.
That's right.
It's just the weather. It's the weather. That's the thing,
weather. Yes. That's the big cloud that hangs over us all the time, isn't it? What would tempt you to swap an overseas holiday with a beach hut staycation in the UK?
Well, I always long for a reading week when I can just pack up all the books that I've been meaning to read for ages and go off, pack up a big cool box with all the things I want to eat and literally just sit there and read. And you know, if you go abroad, you can't take books with you because they're too heavy. And I like a real book myself. So that is perfect. I can have a little shelf put up in the beach hut with all the things I want to read on it and just not have to do anything else. I think that's, you know, I don't know, I've found a lot of people I know have really struggled to read during lockdown because their brains are fried. And there's just nothing left. There's no database left in our brains to process fiction. So I think actually just being able to get away from it all, not having anything else to worry about, and literally just have that wonderful pleasure and let those books take you somewhere else. Let them do the hard work. While you just
of course in your book A Day at the Beach Hut you've given us 10 classic beach reads, which when I read it I thought, no, which ones of these have I read before? And there's quite a few of them actually, which because I love reading as well. Are there any of those that you've read and reread? Do you tend to reread books?
I do. I think my favourite summer read is Jaws. Luckily we don't have too many sharks here. It's so much more than just about a shark, that book. It's amazing. It's a real hotbed of all sorts of things going on under the surface. Obviously the whole, you know, shark thing is the drama behind it, but all the personalities, you know, there's all sorts of naughty going on underneath. And I think I read it when I was about 12 and I was like, oh my God, this is what a book would be. It's a real page turner. Yeah, you don't want anything too complicated or demanding or kind of thought provoking. Just want the writer to do the work for you, really.
That's the lazy option, isn't it? Let the writer do it.
But I mean, you have to engage your imagination, and that's great. But just to have that sort of what's going to happen next?
Yes. Yeah. Do you like turning the pages, or are you a Kindle person?
Oh, I do. I much prefer a real book, although my eyesight's not what it was. So depending on how big the letters are in a book, it depends. And of course, that is the great thing about the Kindle, is you can make, you just get long-sighted, isn't it? When
Yes.
you can't read so well. So Kindles are much better from that point of view, and you can get the light on them as well. But I do love a book. I think books make a home as well. If you walked into a home and it just had a Kindle on the kitchen worktop, you wouldn't have a clue about that person. If you go into somebody's house and you see a bookshelf, you kind of get the measure of them pretty quickly, I think. It's interesting, isn't it?
No, you said that a lot of your characters, they're based on people that you've overheard, heard, maybe seen going about their daily business. Do you think a lot of people would recognise themselves in your books, or think, oh, that sounds a bit like me, or is it just so far from...
I never take anybody from real life and put them straight into my books. They might inspire me, or I'll just remember somebody's incredibly intense gaze or habits, so that each character is usually a kind of patchwork of various different creations, and then put through the filter of my imagination, and then the writing takes over, so they develop more characteristics. So yeah, they're not carbon copies of anybody in real life, but people do sometimes think, oh, is that so and so? Quite often that happens. Yeah, so it's just this sort of process that each character goes through. And actually, people from real life don't always work in fiction. It's very peculiar. You put them in and they just don't feel right. The Day at the Beach Hut is a mixture, the one that's out at the moment. So it's a mixture of short fiction stories and recipes and kind of, as you say,
book recommendations,
playlist recommendations. Yeah, so that's a sort of hybrid, if you like. I've written a quick read as well, which is a novella, so it's a short novel. Quick Reads, it's part of the Reading Agency, which is a reading charity, and they are designed for less confident readers, or people, maybe adults who are learning to read for the first time, or people who've never really engaged with reading. They're used a lot in education and workplaces, and, for example, prisons. So yeah, my quick read was set in a beach hut too. So that was a wonderful and I was very honoured and privileged to be able to write that. And it was just great talking to people. I did quite a few library visits and talks to people who... I spoke to a girl once who said, I've literally never read, that's the first book I've ever read in my life. And that to me is just, and she was enchanted. She just wanted to read more. And, if that's the only thing I've achieved in my life, that'll do. That's a brilliant, brilliant thing.
That's a lovely gift, isn't it, to give to somebody? Amazing. Absolutely, yeah.
Amazing.
So the two other titles in this quadrant, Christmas at the Beach Hut. We did try to do something last year in Hove at Christmas time, but of course that came to naught. Yeah. And a wedding at the Beach Hut. Now, we've got a gorgeous place just along in Brighton. It's a sort of a little shelter, and you often see weddings taking place there, particularly the photographs. You've got the beach in the background and it almost looks Caribbean, but I've never seen a wedding at a beach hut. Perhaps any listeners who've had a wedding at the beach who could get in touch and let us know how it went and how you managed to cram your 30 guests into a beach hut. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But just imagine, Veronica, that you own a beach hut, but you want to raise about 25,000 by selling your beach hut or a new kitchen. Now, would you hold on to your beach hut?
Oh, well, as somebody who's quite obsessed with kitchens as well, that would be really difficult. I do have my dream kitchen. I don't have it, I don't own it, but I have a dream kitchen in my head, if you like. And I don't know, because the thing about a kitchen is I would use it every day. Let's hope I never get thrown into that.
And obviously all the costs of owning a beach hut every year, the insurance, the licence fees, etc. Do you think it's worth laying out for that all the time? If you were a beach hut owner, would you be happy to pay that?
Oh, well, I think with any kind of investment, there always becomes some sort of financial responsibility. So it's just part of the course, isn't it? If you buy a caravan, for example, then you have to keep it roadworthy, you have to keep it maintained, there's licenses, etc. So yeah, I think anything that involves spending money will then need spending more money. That's just how it
absolutely
rolls.
right.
Especially
Yeah.
nowadays, you have to have insurance for things, unfortunately. Whereas back in the day, I'm sure they wouldn't have thought twice about it.
I'm going to ask you a question now. Imagine that tomorrow you wake up to find you've been appointed the UK's first ever beach hut minister.
Oh, dream job.
What would be your top 3 considerations to make properties on the Prom available to more people?
Gosh, well, I mean, it's kind of almost a metaphor for what's going on at the moment by the seaside, isn't it? The fact that all coastal properties are being bought as second homes and ousting the locals who can't afford the property. So I'd try and find a way of making it more democratic, and perhaps have a beach hut lottery.
A beach hut lottery. That's a good idea.
So that it was fair and that everybody got a chance to spend some time in it. So if you want to spend some time in the beach hut, then you buy your beach hut lottery ticket. And I think if once you've won it once, you can't win it again. So yeah, I think that's quite a good idea.
And that's a great idea. Or actually, even just allowing people to rent their beach huts out would open it up to more people, wouldn't it?
Yes, exactly.
What else would you do? So that's sort of 1 and 2 there, isn't it? Would you build them in more places, or what would you do?
I think it would be, where they do exist, I think it would be great to encourage kind of artistic, food, cultural things around that. So to sort of encourage a sort of very creative community almost around it, so that they become more than just a row of beach huts. There's, lovely pop-up food perhaps to encourage people to come to that area, and art. I think so many people are inspired by the seaside, and maybe even writing retreats. Yeah, just to sort of make it more of a hub of something more, just that added extra that encourages another revenue stream perhaps for the area, and to make it inspiring and stimulating for people.
Yes, that sounds a great idea. But some days, I think you've got the job, hands down, absolutely. How many billions do you want?
We'll talk about it.
It's been wonderful talking to you, Veronica. Where can we find you, more details about your books? Do you have a website? Are you on social media?
I am. I'm on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. I think Veronica Henry Author is Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I've got a website, veronicahenry.co.uk. Books, I think it's available certainly in Tesco's at the moment on at quite a good price. Or all good bookshops.
All good bookshops.
Even if it's not in there at the moment, you could certainly get it ordered in. And obviously there are online retailers available.
And are we going to see a 5th beach hut book coming soon?
Oh gosh, I'm quite beach hut out at the moment. No, I would never say never. Never say never. What have I done? I've done Christmas, I've done weddings, well, who knows? I'm sure there's all sorts I could do. I'm sure it could go on forever.
Oh, well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Veronica. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been lovely learning about your work, and obviously I feel your energy for beach huts as well. So all the best.
97.2 FM.
Radio Reverb.
So thank you to Veronica Henry for joining me. And now I have the pleasure of reading Jennifer Sharman's poem. Now, Jennifer sold her beach hut earlier this year, but she loved it down on Hove seafront. And in fact, I've got a second one of her poems later on in the show.
My Big Secret by Jennifer Sharman. My beach hut is my secret delight. It is here I find inspiration to write. My poems flow freely from my brain, whether summer, winter, spring or rain. Sitting here where the sounds of the sea so gloriously do wash over me, it is such a splendid luxury. The sun is shining through the clouds. Crepuscular rays shine through at angles, spreading their magic, leaving my mind in tangles of wonderment. People find it hard to guess at the joy these beautiful beach huts bring, and how being here makes my heart and soul sing. I would like to be gliding on a seagull's wing, swooping low, soaring high, somehow trying to reach the sky. The end of September is soon approaching. The temperature drops, the rain clouds increase. However, none of these changes will make my residence cease. For this is where I am at my happiest. The translucent light, the visual sight, and the surfing of the sea all bring this a sense of peace to me. My beach hut neighbours are all good friends. We share laughter, fun, and food and wine. The feeling of well-being affects us all, making us a content and smiling crowd. We are all so lucky, I want to laugh out loud. Nordic walking along the Prom in Hove, this is a sport that I really love. Lucy, my spaniel, usually comes too. It makes us feel healthy and wealthy in ways. These are some of the most brilliant days. No need to go abroad. Sitting at the beach hut, gazing out to sea, watching people go by. This is the place I would rather be.
I just read the first of 2 poems by Jennifer Sharman, and now I'm pleased to be speaking to a new beach hutter, Alan Elsey. Let's hear what Alan has to say.
So I'm very pleased to welcome Alan Elsey on the show today. And Alan is a beach hut owner. And of course, today is all about beach huts. And Alan, here we are looking out at this terrible weather outside.
Not
a
great.
Miserable December day, rain, wind, all the rest.
I was at the beach hut last night in the wind having some Prosecco with some friends. So, yeah, I can guarantee it wasn't the best weather, but it's still fun, though, even on a cloudy, wet and windy day.
I'm really pleased to hear that you use your beach hut by the sound of it throughout the year. Is that correct?
I started to, yeah. I mean, it's because if you sit inside them out of the wind, they're quite cosy. And I'm getting a windbreak made up at the moment, so that's going to be quite useful on those blustery days.
So when did you buy your beach hut?
I bought it in August because obviously there were none available with lockdown and everything. It was quite hard to acquire one. And I wanted one for the last few years. So, yeah, I was lucky enough to get one in August this year.
And what made you choose the particular location where you are?
I've always wanted. There are over 400 beach huts, I think, in Hove, but I've always wanted one in that particular block, which is between King Alfred Centre and Lexi's Cafe, because you're kind of on the beach there. There's no wall between you and the well, I say sand, you and the stones.
True.
So yeah, there's always been a sort of desire of mine to get one along that particular stretch, and I've got one right in the middle of that stretch. So I was quite fortunate in that respect.
What sort of condition was the beach hut in when you bought it?
It was okay. I think it was the previous one blew down and was destroyed about 6 years ago, and this is 6 years old. So it was okay. There was nothing inside it, but it was absolutely fine. Yeah.
Now I think you've got a little bit of an eye for design, have you not?
Yes, I have.
Now where does that come from?
Well, I'm retired now, but I was a graphic designer in my working years, so I guess it comes from that, I imagine. Yeah.
Well, graphic design for beach huts, that's something I've never heard before,
I was working in television for my whole life. So, yeah, I do have a sort of design bend, I suppose.
Lovely. Now, I think back in August when we had a beach hut open day, you were there with a table of about, I don't know, you seem to have the whole beach covered with friends.
It was quite a crowd. Yeah, we actually had my husband is part of a tennis group, and they a couple of them swing dancers. So we had swing dancers there giving a lesson, and it was really, really good fun actually. So it was great. The weather wasn't great, but I've been to one of those things before on a sunny day, and they're lots of fun. But we still had a good time all the same.
Well, it certainly looked as though you were having fun, and actually, I think I collared you, didn't I? And I said, Alan, what on earth have you done here with your beach hut? It looked fantastic. So take me through some of the sort of the process that you you had in making your beach hut so standoutish?
I suppose because I've wanted one for so long, I kind of knew what I was in my mind's eye, what I was going to do. I actually made a little model of what I would do before I even owned one. I was so desperate to get one, a bit sad, really. I just, I'm not a builder. Obviously, I'm a designer, but I love a project. So I set about making, using the space inside in the best way I could find. A lot of the beach huts they're great storage facilities. I think they're great for blow up toys and stuff at the beach, but I wanted ours to be a kind of extension of our home in a way. So, and that's what it looks like. It's like a tiny house on the beach, isn't it?
Well, it is, and you seem to spend so much time there. Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what colour did you paint the doors?
The doors are grey and white. I picked grey and white because I've got some nice fabric for the windbreak that I'm having made at the moment, and it's grey and white, so it will all match the windbreak. Plus, the doors will all match the same colour, so that's why I chose grey and white.
Now, I think by the looks of things, I mean, obviously, I didn't start furrowing in your beach hut. We didn't have time. You were too
Feel
busy.
Free anytime.
You've got several features that are quite standoutish, aren't they?
I've got, as I said, storage was something I thought about a lot. So when you open the doors, there are 12 chairs and 4 tables in there, including a full-size dining table, but you can't see them because of my if I say so myself, sort of ingenious storage solutions, I guess, because it all hides behind the door. And all the legs, I made all the furniture myself, but all the legs are detachable and all the tables hang on hooks behind the door. So, but when it's all out on the seafront, it looks like, how on earth do you squeeze all that stuff into that small space? But you do, it's possible, yeah.
Well, exactly. They're only about 6 by 6,
they
aren't they? So
absolutely, yeah.
The thought of all those tables and chairs, I mean, what happens if a leg goes missing? Do you just replace a leg?
That hasn't happened yet, so I'll bear that in mind. Yeah. I'll let you know when that happens.
Okay. So what sort of storage do you keep? Storage for glasses? I mean, obviously the Prosecco evenings sound like great fun. Do you have somewhere to keep your... But I suppose it's like a natural larder at this time of the year, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's like a sort of kitchen, dining room, chill out space, living room all rolled into one, really. I've got... with all the things that I've built in there, one of the things that gets people's attention when they walk past is my little homemade wine glass rack on the side. It looks like a pub. I've got 12. Well, they look like glass, but they're plastic glasses, but they're very good ones, these actually. And I've got them all hanging on the wall in a wine rack on the side, which is one of my favourite features as well, actually. I have to say.
I think there's several features to your beach hut. I mean, I love the porthole that you've got on there. What gave you that idea?
I don't know. It just came out of somewhere. I got the numbers made up from some place I found on eBay, and then I bought the porthole and stuck them on. And I just don't know. It just came out of nowhere, really. I like portholes. What can I say?
Well, I think the point is lots of people love the beach huts, don't they?
And they do. Yeah.
I'm down there an awful lot, and it doesn't matter what the weather's like. There's always somebody being photographed stood in front of a beach hut.
I know. I mean, I guess before, I never really thought much about having a beach hut. I'd always sort of thought, well, why don't you just sit on the beach? But then 2 good friends of ours, 4 or 5 doors up, have a beach hut, and we sort of spent so many hours, afternoons, last 2 summers ago, sitting around their beach hut. I sort of thought, I get it now, and that's when I started to feel I really want one of my own, they're great fun. It's a nice friendly community. It's great. I'm very pleased I've got one finally.
So did you ever spend time as a child in beach huts anywhere on UK holidays?
No, not at all. No, it's just something that's sort of a new interest in life, actually.
So it's grown on you, has it, since you've been down here?
Yeah, definitely. Because I grew up in Norfolk, and there are some nice beach huts on the North Norfolk coast, but there's something about the Hove beach huts that's very special. There's so many of them, and the colours and everything, of course. It's all part of the whole Hove culture, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, I spent a couple of days up in Norfolk earlier on this year with my mother. And of course, Mum used to say to me, where are we going today, darling? And I'd say, well, we're going to look at beach huts. And she'd say to me, not again, Heather.
Anything but the beach huts.
I know. Now, December the 18th, we're going to be having an open day from 4:00 with beach huts open. Is that something that you're able to participate in?
Well, unfortunately, I'm actually busy on that day. Something I can't get out of.
I thought maybe you'd have all the Christmas decorations up in there.
I am quite disappointed actually that missing.
Yeah.
But certainly next year I shall make sure I'm about for it. Yeah, because I've got ideas in my head already for the Christmas decorations, but sadly not to be this year. But next year, definitely look out for me.
Now, I believe you won an award a couple of months ago. What was that all about?
You're listening to Let's Talk Property with Heather Hilder-Darling, sponsored by Callaway's Estate Agents. Let's find out what Alan's award was about.
It was obviously when you buy a beach hut, it's a good idea to get insurance because of all the wind and, as we know, some of them have been destroyed in storms over the years. So I got insurance with a company, and they ran a national competition. And much to my surprise, I came third. Yeah. So, it was great. I got a Fulton Mason hamper at 70 quid, which was consumed the day it arrived. And I got a £50 Love to Shop voucher, which I've spent. So that was great. Yeah, it's been good fun.
What made you go in for that? Just for fun, or was it you really thought you had a good chance there?
Well, friends of mine sort of said the beach hut looks so lovely. You should enter it. So I did. Yeah, just for fun, actually. Yeah. I'm very pleased I did.
Well, I think that's an amazing achievement for a first-time beach hutter to win an award. That doesn't happen every day, does it?
Yeah, well, there were two beach huts. There's another beach hut a lot further along by the lawns that came in the top 10. So, we had two in the top 10, which was lovely, actually.
Well, it's no wonder they're icons of Hove then, is it? If we've got award-winning beach huts. And I know it's happened in the past as well. Yeah,
I'm sure, yes.
So when somebody says to me, I want to buy a beach hut, what sort of things went through your head when you started thinking about buying a beach hut?
Well, for me, mainly it was the location, because it was just that block of, I think there were about 20 between King Alfred and Lex's. I was only interested in that location because of being right on the beach. And there was one available a couple of years ago, but it was a bit too close to the bins.
Right. Okay.
So I was being, even within that block, I was being quite specific, so I was overjoyed when this particular one became available, and it was right exactly where I wanted it. So what are the chances, really? I couldn't let that one go, really.
We'll find out a little bit more about Alan and his beach hut after we've heard the poem written and spoken by Kate Roberts. I set a challenge to members of the Hove Beach Hut Association.
There's some amazing talent out there, and I'm really lucky to speak to Kate today and hear her recite her own poem. So I'm going to ask Kate a couple of questions first. Kate, do you have a beach hut?
Good morning, Heather. Yes, I do. And crikey, I love it.
Why do you love it so much?
Who wouldn't want the sea and the beach as their garden? I live in a flat. It's a first floor flat. We don't have a garden. The beach and the sea is my garden.
Do you do a lot of walking on the prom, or are you a swimmer, a paddleboarder?
I may get my feet wet on a hot day, but not really a swimmer. I enjoy walking up and down, but yes, not so much in the sea.
Do you know, I was on the seafront yesterday and there were people actually going in swimming, and I'm standing there shivering in my gilet and my trousers and a big winter coat, and I'm thinking, what are they doing? What makes people go into sea? I believe it's very good for you, but it's certainly not my cup of tea.
Agreed. Not here either.
Now, when you saw the call for poems about beach huts, what made you send your poem to me? Or is it something that you like doing in your spare time? Is it something you do a lot?
Not really, no. My mum died recently and she was big on writing her own poems, and I was actually writing a poem for her funeral when I sort of got your email through. So I thought, I'm in the mood to do poems. Also, you'll see from my poem later, it's actually a bit of a detective work. I'm actually trying to find somebody through this poem. So, yeah, it's two things, really.
Oh, that's a lovely story. There's always a story behind whatever you do. I mean, I have made some very half-hearted attempts. You might have seen it in my Hove Beach Hut Association letter. I sometimes put some sort of, I like rhymes. I'm not very good on the ones that don't rhyme because they just sometimes come to me and I think, I'll just write that down. But obviously your poem is very heartfelt as well, I think. And I don't know, how long did it take you to write it? Does the inspiration come and you just write, or do you think about it first?
I thought I sort of get inspiration and then just write a load of things down, and then maybe over and the next couple of days I'll just think of something to change a little bit. But yeah, it's mainly just straight from the heart.
Have you done any further beach hut poems since you wrote this one?
I haven't, no.
Oh! So this is a one-off original, Kate Roberts, is it?
At the moment, yes, but you know.
You never know, do you? Oh, that's a lovely story. So what's your poem called, Kate?
And it's called Snippets.
Snippets. And how did that title come about?
Mainly just because I wrote the poem and then I tried to think of something that would exactly describe it. And that just came to me. And I was like, yes, of course, that would be a perfect name for it.
Are you better sometimes when you're not deliberately thinking about something? Because I know when I'm thinking about titles for things I'm writing, if I sit there, very often it doesn't come to me. If I just switch my brain off, sometimes there's something that pops into my head and I think, well, perfect, that's exactly what I want.
Absolutely. Normally about, sort of silly o'clock in the morning when you wake up and then something pops into your head and you have to scribble it down and then you go back to sleep again.
I have lots of those, I must say. I think Snippets fills the title very, very well. So I would love you to I'll introduce you, obviously the reader and the creator of Snippets, the poem. So please do share your poem with us now, Kate.
Okay, so Snippets by Kate Roberts, aged 48 and a half. I may look as if I'm napping with my eyes shut, lying down relaxing outside my beach hut. Although the view is splendid on a clear bright day, sometimes it's just fun to hear what folks say, the people passing by and having a chat about COVID and families and this and that. To them, they're happily having a yak. Or I want the full story, wait, come back. The best thing I heard was about the then view, before it became all poshed up and new. I've no idea if their opinion was fair, rather stick pins in my eyes than go in there. If that was you a few years ago, I'm at 2:01, please let me know. Until then, I'll carry on listening, knowing full well the sea will be glistening. The end.
Kate, that's absolutely lovely. And it's lovely hearing it from obviously the author of the poem. When I read it, I thought I know exactly what she's thinking here, and the snippets of conversation, obviously, that you pick up from people walking by. Absolutely lovely. So I think that's very inspirational. And, obviously your beach hut brings you a lot of pleasure. And I think writing poems can bring pleasure as well, can't it? Just to use that creativity.
True, yes. Yeah, I'm finding that out recently. I might have to start properly again.
Well, obviously, we're going to publish the poems in the Hove Beach Hut Association newsletter, which will be coming out in December. But I've got to keep everything quiet before then. So thank you so much for recording with me today, Kate. It's been a pleasure meeting you and hearing your poem.
Oh, absolutely. Pleasure was mine.
Radio Reverb.
Play something lightning.
Thank you to Kate Roberts for her poem Snippets. And now let's rejoin Alan.
Also, people, when you see, what I love about the open doors is when all the beach huts are open and you think, okay, a little shed, a glorified shed, 6 by 6.
I know.
How different are they all? And, what would people be thinking? Do you think when they buy one, they should wait a little bit and perhaps talk to neighbours and friends about, what do you think I should do with my beach hut? How could I achieve X, Y, Z? What would your recommendation be to a new beach hut owner?
Well, definitely. Well, make sure you've got the funds in place to begin with, because they go just as soon as one becomes available, that it's gone. So you need to make sure that's all set up beforehand. Talk to neighbours, I suppose. Make sure it's in the location that you want. Find out who has the beach hut next door, maybe. Yeah, I guess that's it really. And then my advice is just to go for it because it's great.
Were you worried about committing to a minimum of 3 years?
Not at all. No, I mean, I think we've won. It's not the sort of thing we're going to ever get rid of. I don't think really. Once now we've got one. I love it so much, and I spend a lot of time down there. I can't imagine that we'll be setting it on. So no, 3 years wasn't a problem at all.
So once a beach hutter, always a beach hutter.
I would say so. Yeah, as a new beach hutter, I think that'll be my mantra from now on.
Do you think there could be more sort of experiences down there with beach huts? Do you think there could be more community events happening, bearing in mind the British weather isn't always the best?
The weather does have its limitations. But yeah, I mean, the events that do take place, which basically is kind of twice a year, I think, with the summer party and the Christmas one. Yeah, there could be some more. It's always a good time for a party, isn't it? But the ones that are organised, I think, are great fun already. A lot of the beach huts aren't. A lot of them are derelict. A lot of them aren't used. It would seem so. It's a bit odd to see some of them are in a terrible state. So it's a shame that some of them have fallen into such disrepair. But yeah, I think the events that happen are good. Yeah, but if there's any more planned, then I'll be there.
Well, I'm sure you will. Now, the Hove Beach Hut Association, obviously, that was set up a couple of years ago. Yeah. How much has that affected your love and sort of feeling of belonging to the community?
Oh, definitely. There's a Facebook page, and there's emails that come back and forth. Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, out on the front line, there is a great community there anyway. In reality, but the Beach Hut Association is just a nice aspect of that, really. To keep in touch.
Well, it certainly is.
And photos are posted, and it brings people together. So it's certainly not a bad thing.
No, it's not. Now, the Kingsway to the Sea project, how are you feeling about that? Have you heard the news about it? Are you aware that there's going to be changes along the seafront?
Well, I am aware. I don't know that it's going to affect the beach huts too much. I think they're upgrading the garden. I mean, one thing that they do need to do is obviously increase the quality of the loos, which are terrible along there. So I think they could certainly spend some money on the public toilet. But I guess they'll improve the gardens behind. And I don't, from what I can see, it doesn't actually affect the beach huts per se. I don't know, maybe you know more about that. But.
Well, I think whatever happens, we need to keep our open spaces available for people to go and walk around. And
absolutely. Yeah.
Certainly on days like today, which I've been down on the seafront on days like today, and you still see people walking around, walking their dogs, jogging, etc.
Yeah.
And actually, the beach huts just bring a smile to your face. They cannot fail to raise a smile. I don't know what it is about them.
It's so true, and I think I'm the only beach hut along there with a candelabra. So whenever the candelabra's out on the table, that always gets a smile and quite a few photographs. And we've got those candles that are battery powered. You can see people walking past quizzically thinking, how are they keeping the flames alive? And then they get up close and they, okay, now I see.
So if people come and ask you, what have you done to your beach hut, you're very happy to talk to them, are you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, but yeah, I've had loads of lovely comments and people taking photographs and all sorts of things. So, no, it's great. I love the response from people going past.
That's absolutely wonderful. Now, do you know your neighbours very well?
The one to the right of me, the guy that sold me the beach hut said he's never seen anyone there in 6 years.
Oh.
There's a nice guy called Harry the other side, who I think they're co-owned by three couples co-owned it, and they're lovely. Yeah, but yeah, that block, I can't speak for the rest of the stretch of beach huts, but that block is very friendly. So I've met quite a few people, especially when I was doing it up, because obviously everyone was very interested in what I was doing.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
Yeah, but it's a friendly block, definitely.
So would you say there's a characteristic that runs through all beach hutters?
Probably, yeah. I don't know what the characteristic would be, but there probably is, yeah.
Well, because, they're used for lots of different things, aren't they? Some people just want it to be able to get away from the house or the flat.
Yeah.
Some people like the solitude, maybe, to go and sit down there and read.
Absolutely.
Or in fact, what I noticed over this year is that a lot more people who were either authors or painters were taking an interest in beach huts.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a bad idea. I paint occasionally, but my husband hates the smell of oil paint in the flat, so I could possibly take it easy.
What, you mean banned to the beach hut?
I just suddenly thought about why you mentioned it. So maybe that's not a bad idea, actually. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest, the sea in all seasons is just magnificent, isn't it? So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So moving forward, do you think the beach huts should be rented out? I mean, this might be a little bit of a controversial topic, but what do you think about renting beach huts?
I'm not sure it's a good idea. I'm not sure it's a great. I mean, obviously, you let friends use it and stuff, but in terms of like Airbnb-ing your beach hut, I don't know that's a great idea. It'd probably be quite a nice money spinner for people, but it's not something you can ever kind of police, really, is it? So I wouldn't be 100% behind that idea, I don't think. But obviously, you can let friends use it and stuff. I think that's great, So
when let's go back to when you bought your beach hut. Were you completely up to speed with the sort of money it would cost you over the year?
In terms of the ground rent and stuff, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And maintenance, but by the sound of it, you're doing your own maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, it's in pretty good nick, my beach hut, so there's not a lot of maintenance. Mind you, I did have one of my big dining table fell off the back of the door in the summer and blocked the door, so I had to get a builder cut a hole in the side to be able to open the door, which was a bit slightly alarming. But yeah, so the table's now hanging off the wall instead of the door. So
dear,
that was kind of unexpected. But that won't be happening again. But yeah, I mean, it's in pretty good nick, so I think I'll certainly check. Obviously the doors and everything and the roof quality as the years go by, make sure that it's all kept up to the way it should be. So.
But you said, the location, you love it because, of course, you can walk either east or west, can't you, and get to the restaurants and the cafes. Do you manage to use those a lot? Cause I know Lex's Cafe very well now. They were very, very good to me when I was doing the beach hut up, so they were lending me vacuum cleaners and things, So that was it's a lovely little cafe, Lex's. And then Rockwater's further along. So it's a great location for that kind of thing, yeah. And there's quite a lot. I mean, they were filming along there, weren't they, the other couple of months ago, maybe a few weeks ago, the new Peter James.
Really?
Yes, I mean, I went down there that day and I thought, what are all these TV cameras doing down here?
I've seen them.
You missed it. Gosh, you could have had your beach hut in the Peter James.
When I watched the programme, I'll look out for it. I saw them filming in Brighton a couple of times, so I didn't actually see them down there. But yeah, thanks for the heads up. I'll look out for it.
That's all right. Well, look, Alan, it's been absolutely fabulous speaking to you today. Thank you for joining me and
you're welcome.
Sharing these little snippets of beach hut life. It sounds like, unfortunately, I can't buy a beach hut in Hove because I'm
you
not
must come down and have a glass of wine by the candelabra in the summer.
Well, it sounds magnificent. I mean, I know on the 18th of December, a lot of the beach hut owners who are opening their beach huts, there may be mince pies and mulled wine around.
Sure.
So
I'm sure.
I hope I can get from one end of the beach to the other without making a fool of myself and tripping over.
You'll be staggering by the time you get to Rockwater. As I say, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to come to this one, but next year, definitely.
Next year, absolutely. Thank you, Alan, for joining me, and enjoy the rest of the year in your beach hut.
Thank you, Heather.
And now for our next poem, and the poem is entitled 3 Faces of Beach Huts, and it was written and is read by Jean Blemmings.
The saw-toothed line of roofs of rows of beach huts rasp on the raw skies and ragged streamers of cloud. Inside, wrapped up warm, hutters heated by hot drinks and bottles. Through doors thrown wide, regard the elements unconcerned. From an all-encompassing arc of unsullied sapphire blue sky, sun rays, hard as diamonds, streamed to strike the disgorged hutters, poured from their huts onto a miscellany of sun loungers and seats, with a backdrop of shrieks, splashes, snoozing, and seaside smells. The dark, star-sparkled sky spreads above the sleeping huts. A wily fox trots by, and ghost shadows of gulls float overhead. The sea surges ceaselessly a soundtrack of sensual susurration to the mixture of memories made and yet to be made in the cabins of fun.
Thank you, Jean, for sending in your poem. And now over to Alison Leslie, who's going to talk about her Bliss and Blight poem.
Alison, it's wonderful that you can join me this morning. I'm so excited to hear you read your own poem. What actually motivated you to write your poem?
Well, I love writing. I write quite a bit of poetry in general, but you set a challenge or a project, and the toilets really, really, really get me down. So Oh,
so tell me a little bit. How long have you had your beach hut for?
Nearly 4 years. I moved to Hove 4 years ago in September gone, and I wanted a beach hut. I thought I'd love one, and then I found out how expensive they were, and I thought, oh no, that's really a lot of money. So I got through the winter, and then in the spring I thought, I've always wanted one. Now I'm here. It's on the doorstep. This one was literally straight down from the flats where I live. And and I thought, no, it's been worth its weight in gold. My children and grandchildren, my daughter comes down in the summer and swims, and my grandchildren enjoy it. So yes.
So you've never regretted it then?
Not at all. It's a dream come true.
Oh, that's wonderful. Did you come from a place where there were beach huts before, or did you just fall in love with the Hove beach huts?
No. I was living just in the south of England, but as you probably tell from my accent, I come from the north of England, from Whitley Bay, which is on the coast, but we didn't have beach huts. We just undressed in the freezing cold northeast wind.
So how often would you say you visit your beach hut? Is it a weekly visit, or does it depend on friends and family being around?
No, I'd say definitely weekly, and I go down like a day like this is very tempting, but I've got other things to do. But on a day like this, I'd go down, and I wouldn't sit outside. I'd sit inside and read, and you just enjoy the sea and being out of the wind. It's just lovely.
Do you generally take like a thermos flask of tea or coffee with you and sandwiches, or do you pick up something while you're down on the seafront?
I'd probably get a coffee from the seafront, and I might take a sandwich down with me, but it would be one from a local shop. I wouldn't make it beforehand.
So which season do you prefer being in your beach hut?
Probably spring, just when the warm weather's starting and it's not too busy. It's difficult to say after the last couple of years, isn't it? It's just every opportunity, but probably spring.
And you just mentioned the last couple of years. Has that made you appreciate even more having a beach hut?
Well, we weren't allowed to use them in the first lockdown, so I would have loved to be able to escape out of the house and down there. I wouldn't say more. I just appreciate it, full stop.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I'm really pleased that you've been able to join me to read your own poem. So, Alison, I'm now going to introduce you as you read your beach hut poem. And what have you called it?
Was it Blight and Bliss, I think, in the end? Or Bliss and Blight, whichever way you want. Yeah, Bliss and Blight, maybe.
You're the author. You're the one who wrote it. You can decide.
Bliss and Blight, yes.
Right. Okay, fire away then, Alison.
My beach hut is not the TARDIS. When I enter, it does not expand, but my soul does, and my spirits lift, and I am at peace, until I need to use the loos, which are beyond disgusting, an unspeakable affront to dignity that mock the fresh sea air and salt-filled breeze. I escape the filth and stench, ashamed of this welcome to Hove, and smile apologetically at the ever-extending queue. My beach hut welcomes me back. I lounge beneath drifting clouds, study them and passing crowds, then lose myself in my latest read, content in this blissful haven.
That's wonderful. How long did it take you to write?
Oh, probably 10 minutes.
I'm sure a lot of people sit with a piece of paper in front of them for a lot longer than 10 minutes trying to think of something to write. But thank you so much for sharing it with me.
You're very well.
And to round off today's Let's Talk Property, I'm reading the second poem by Jennifer Sharman. Jennifer has now sold her beach hut, and she's written this, I suppose you could say, as a homage to all the wonderful time she spent down there.
My Secret Delight by Jennifer Sharman. My beach hut was my secret delight. It was here that I found inspiration to write. Sadly now it is time to sell, as for the past few years I have not been well. My little red poodle was called Reggie, and to the beach he always accompanied me. He loved watching dogs and people walk by, wagging his tail with a glint in his eye. Tragically, my poor Reggie died. Tearfully, he was my joy and pride. I will miss my friendly neighbours, some I knew for 20 years. We shared fun, laughter and lots of wine, often gambling in the sparkling brine. New Year's parties, a dip in the sea, steaming bodies wrapped up snugly. Then it was time for cake, mulled wine and bubbly. Fond farewells, hugs and cheers, looking forward to many more years. I send my good wishes to the couple who have bought my beach hut. It will become your secret delight, and you will never regret it.
Thank you for joining me today. I do hope you've enjoyed the show. And don't forget to save the date, 18th of December. Come down and join beach hut owners as they open their doors.
It's a house thing. It's a house thing.